So that song that Steve Epley wrote, When I Was God, when I hear that song, I actually go kind of on an animated film adventure through space and through time, through humanity, through God consciousness. But that song is about our co-creative ability, about what is ours in this thing we call life. What are we? What is God? It's this exploration, this waking up, this almost dreaming, waking state of exploring that concept, that idea. Do you believe that we are co-creators? Do you believe that we have an ability to affect our reality, that we have something to wake up to, that in fact, when we wake up to something that is within us at a deeper spiritual level, we become active participants in life rather than people waiting for life to be applied to or happen to us? There was something in the Daily Word this morning that caught my attention. Well, a couple of things. But it said how empowering it feels to know that the same creative force responsible for extensive galaxies and brilliant sunrises is also a part of who I am. That is also an aspect of my being, that I am one with that creative process. I am not separate from that, that in fact, I am in line with that. I am of that, that is me. And then it goes on to talk about cooperating consciously acknowledging this activity and saying, if I feel opposed, separate, or influenced negatively, this is intense. Are you ready? We go from soft to intense quickly. It is because I have distanced or blocked myself from this goodness. It's kind of a harsh possibility to take on sometimes, right? I mean, because who doesn't want to feel good and goodness? Who doesn't want to feel love and light and peace? So this idea that I could in any way block myself is pretty... I just keep thinking of the terrorized carrot. I was at a restaurant yesterday, and on the menu, you could order a terrorized carrot. And I'm thinking, hearing those words kind of makes you feel like a terrorized carrot. It's a way of cooking a carrot. And the universe, doesn't it have some sort of way of cooking us sometimes? And we think, that doesn't feel like, I don't feel like I'm lightly steamed right now. I feel like I am a terrorized carrot. Sometimes I can't exactly control what comes into our Sunday experience. It says, if I feel separation, it is up to me to reopen my mind, heart, and life to the flow of the good that is always seeking me. Can we believe that possibility, that there is always a good seeking me? I have a Unity friend. He's a Unity minister. We call him Tennessee Bob. And he always says, fun just follows me around. That's his affirmation. Fun just follows me around. Can we stand in our spiritual power and our spiritual knowing in every moment, no matter what it feels like, even if we feel like a terrorized carrot or something else? And can we say, good is seeking me in this moment? Good is seeking me in this moment, and I know this to be the truth, and with all of my being, I will allow my mind, my heart, my body to open up to this truth principle, this truth idea. I will step into it, and I will, through the power of my practice, I will give that idea life. Not just even when it doesn't feel like it, especially when it doesn't feel like it. Especially when every little cell of your body is screaming, going, no, that can't be because this feels bad. That can't be because that is bad. That can't be because they are bad. That can't be because this experience is taking everything that I could possibly have and more than I can imagine to move through. We are here, friends, not to be stagnant. We're here not to be born once and stay the same forever. We are part of an evolutionary process. Teilhard de Chardin did a lot of studies and a lot of writing about the evolution of consciousness, the phenomena of man. We are part of a field that is growing and expanding in how it knows itself. And we're here to be that evolution process. Sometimes that takes letting go of things to grow. Sometimes that takes reinventing ourselves. There was an Oprah interview I saw one time, and I remember clearly her answer, because someone asked her, how did you stay through all these years? Like, how did you make it through all these years? And I've used this example before, but she said so clearly, it was just like crystal clear, pretty quick answer, and she just said, I reinvented myself. So she paid attention to the times changing outside. She paid attention to herself changing. And she didn't just do what was working over and over again because it was working. She honored herself if she changed and she shifted and she reinvented herself. Aren't we all called to do the same thing all the time? Yet the human psyche doesn't always like doing it. The human psyche sees things in black and white sometimes, and sees life and death, and sees me and not me, and sees, this is what I'm comfortable with, that's not what I'm comfortable with. So as much as we may pray for growth and pray for expansion, oftentimes when it gets here, we slam on the brakes like something we have never slammed on before. And even though every other part of our soul being is saying, bring it on, I want to grow, our little human psyche goes, hell no. I won't grow. That could be a little cheerleader chant. Linda can write that for us later. Maybe not. Even the idea of life and death, one of the most challenging illusions that we face on this planet, even that. But spiritual awakening and spiritual community and spiritual life at its deepest level is one that honors completions, and it honors growth, and it honors change, no matter how uncomfortable it is. No matter how much our human psyches go, but I thought it was done. I thought I figured out what it was going to look like, be like, feel like, seem like. And I processed that. I did it once. It's supposed to stay that way. It's supposed to stay that way. In Unity, we believe that if you want to change, there is a possibility that you can change. Unlike some of the traditional teachings that we learn, where we hear you can't teach an old dog new tricks, fruit doesn't fall far from the tree, you know a book by its cover, like father, like son, birds of a feather flock together. Whatever it is, that's how it's going to be. Anyone that has been in recovery programs knows that change can happen. Anyone that has engaged in that practice and that community and really done the work knows that what something can look like at one point in your life can be so very, very far from what your potential is and what can be an actual reality when you do your growth work. But it doesn't take sitting in a silo hoping, or even writing letters to a far-off God that lives in the clouds and answers wishes. It takes letting go of the old. It takes recognizing when you have outgrown something and it is no longer serving, and it takes reinventing oneself. One of the first things that they do in AA is talk about your inventory, but then they also start talking about who you spend your time with and recognizing that you've got to change some things. You're not going to necessarily be able to have the same environment and create a different life. And that's hard, and some people can't get past that step. Some people can't let go of what they know and what's familiar for what awaits them. Even if in the mind they know it's better or healthier or more functional or more peaceful. If we do not reinvent ourselves, we stay stuck in the past. And that has to do on an internal level and on an external level. We cling to the old self, and when we do that, we halt our own progress. Even with the environment, I was an environmental studies major. And, when I was in school, I thought for sure by the time it was 20 anything, by now, we'd have like maglev trains that would take you anywhere in a heartbeat. You just get on. I thought we'd have hovering vehicles that, if you wanted to, you could be in this lane, or you could just swoop right over that lane, and that would be like the zoom lane, and you'd have magnetic stuff that keep your cars apart, and then vehicles would get 160 miles a gallon, or they wouldn't even need gas. All of these things. And there are some places where innovative, crazy, blow your mind innovative things are happening. If you do a little Googling online, you'll find out that there are some countries that are just leading us into the future, where they're making roads out of solar panels, where they are doing what is at the absolute cutting edge of consciousness, where they're creating communities in different ways that feed our souls and create connections, where they're raising the standards and raising the bar. I saw a video of one airport in an Asian country, and it was this crazy airport that was like something out of the Jetsons. And I really thought, does that exist, or is that going to exist? Is there really a plan for that to exist? One of my friend's daughters is in junior high now, and she has a class that is all about studying innovation. It's all about reinventing what is. And the videos that she showed to me blew my mind about what's coming next and what they're studying. But if we're not willing to reinvent ourselves, we will be strangled by innovation. And that happens on a global, collective level, and that happens on an individual level, no? Have you ever seen someone or been someone who is trying to hold on to something that doesn't serve and is strangling themselves in the process? Because they had an idea, an attachment, a commitment, whatever it is, fill in the blank. And they're not ready to, or not willing to let go. They haven't hit the bottom yet, whatever it is. The same thing happens collectively. If we hold on to our old technologies, if we say that, my parents worked in a coal mine, and I work in a coal mine, and my kids are going to work in a coal mine forever and ever and ever, what will we do? We will hold on to something that is blowing toxicity into our bodies and that is slowly strangling us, because we don't have the ability to say, your value is not in what you were trained to do. Your value is in your absolute innate ability to evolve, to learn, and to recreate yourself. So we take those people that were trained in any sort of technology that is going extinct or should have been extinct a long time ago, and we see their value and we cultivate their reinvention. And we say, here's a computer, here's solar technology, here's XYZ, whatever it is, here is what's coming next. Did anyone see that movie? What's that movie called? I'm looking for all the serious intuitives here. Pull it out of my brain. Come on. You can do it. It's the movie about the very smart three women, and they're working for NASA. Hidden Figures. So what did the character in Hidden Figures do? When she was seeing the future, she was starting to see what the evolution is calling for. Did she sit here and hold on to and solidify her place and start, hunkering down and saying, I got this, this is my realm, I will make sure no one can take it away because I've trained my people exactly like this? Did she do that, or did she expand and she started looking ahead, right? She started looking ahead saying, what's coming? And then she knew the truth of her people, and she said, let's become the answer to what is coming. That's what we're called to do in every moment, right? In our own lives. And yeah, it's scary, it can be terrifying. And yes, it can be sad, because the human psyche just doesn't like change. For as much as we completely know We are born into these little itty tiny bodies. And then we turn into this, and then we go where we don't know. All this stuff. We are immersed in change. We still try to just look around and go, hey, stop, stop, stop. Rather than recognizing that that is what we are. That is what we are. Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, who put a lot of Unity ideas and concepts that were experiential, that his wife, Myrtle Fillmore, experienced and made come to life within her body being, he put those into words for us. And he called this the law of infinite expansion. He said there is a principle. This is the principle of never ceasing growth and development toward the fulfillment of God's perfect idea that is firmly fixed in all creation. That's the idea that the only thing firmly fixed is that there is a divine blueprint. And everything is changing and moving toward that blueprint. Now, we can go kicking and screaming. We can lay on the bottom and try to look at the stars, or we can get up and we can start reaching. We cannot hold on to the old. We must renew, refresh, and reinvent ourselves. That's in every aspect of life. Reaching to the higher ways. But why don't people grow and expand? Have you ever met someone who got a divorce? Let's just stop there. Just kidding. Have you ever met someone that got a divorce a long time ago? And they are still carrying around resentment. Maybe that's you today. Maybe it's time to lift it up and let it go. Have you ever heard someone share a story about the day the stock market crashed and they lost their money? Before that, they had money. Before that, life was working. Have you ever heard someone tell a story about a time when this person was there, that person was there? A time when they had a different job and then they got let go. Life happens. But friends, what we do with it is on us. If I feel opposed, separate, or influenced negatively, it is because I have distanced or blocked myself from this goodness. If I feel separation, it is up to me to reopen my mind, heart, and life to the flow of good that is always seeking me. Those are not just words. That is our birthright. That is our birthright. We may be bruised by life. We may get hurt. We may get scratched. But if we leave a record on the record player going over the same scratch, someone's not doing it to us. We're keeping the record on the record player. That's on us. Now, usually we go into those places in our consciousness, in our mind, when we had an idea of my way, when we thought something was going to go in a particular way. It was either the way we had planned, the way we agreed to, or the way life goes for everybody else. You're born, then this happens, that happens, that happens, that happens. It happens to everybody else. That's the deal. I should get that. Everybody else was smart. Just kidding. I should get what they got. We get what we get. And can we believe in the possibility that what we get is infinitely and perfectly designed for the evolution of consciousness that we have come here to live and be and move and have our creation in? Once we get that, we stop arguing with it and we just presence it. Can you hear that? We stop arguing with it and we just presence it. We stop resisting what is, because we can resist what is in front of us all day long. But until we step into that pot, whether or not the water is boiling, there is no way we can turn it down. There is no way we can shift it. Until we make an agreement with what is and then consciously step in here and say, now I am to be a co-creative part of this process, there's no change that can happen, and no one can change us, right? We're storytellers. Try not to build stories. Anyone that has worked with the Buddhist precepts of attachment and non-attachment, watch the mind. It's incredible. No matter how far along you feel like you get, you have to just keep surrendering back and going, oh, little mind, there it goes, creating tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Come back, little mind, right here, right now. We build stories all the time. And we can use that to our advantage. Why not build stories that serve us? Why not build stories of forgiveness and radical acceptance? Why not build stories that honor everyone in our lives and ourselves? Why don't we redefine change as an aspect of who and what we are, rather than calling it bad all of the time, or a lot of the time, or whenever it just feels bad? What if we thought that feelings were about more than just serving us? When we come to the law of infinite expansion, and when we recognize that this is what we are, we enter a spiritual practice and a journey of awakening. Now, I have had breakthroughs in my life. Breakthroughs, and I was thinking about last week's talk on violent language. I had said hitting a breakthrough, but breaking would be violent and hitting would be violent. Not always. Well, the hitting, not the breaking. But when we have experiences in life that expand us beyond our suffering into our liberation, for me personally, I look back at the tools and the thinking that got me to where I am, so that I can either remember them and use them for next time, like paint them on the walls of my house, or so that I can offer them to help others. So I ask myself when I've had breakthroughs, is it the prayers I used? Is it the practice? Was it the attachments? Was it that quote, that book that I read? Was it the conversation? Was it that friend? Was it that minister? Was it that therapist? Was it the person that I was talking to? Was it that trip? Was it my meditation? Was it EMDR? Was it NET? Was it the healer I used? Was it the food choices I shifted to? Was it the vitamins? Was it the prescription? Did I let go? Did I hold on? Did I make new connections, or did I let go of old ones? Did I forgive? Did I let myself get angry? Did I let myself blame? Did I change my thinking? Did I allow the thoughts that were there to have space? Did I move? Did I change? Did I release something? What was the formula? Where was the magic potion? And you know what I always find? I always find that when I get to a place where I've really done my work, and where really there is a new person standing in the place of what used to be me, when that has truly, really, authentically happened, I cannot write a formula. I cannot put it in a book. I can hardly even pinpoint it myself. Because when I begin to look at it, I recognize that it was swirling through that and through this, and all of that happened in the same space. And how could I get into some small space where I could think, it was that one part? It was that, why don't I just do workshops for the rest of my career? All right, everybody, let's get ready. Here it is. And then you say these words, and you're all healed. We're all healed. For me, it doesn't work like that. For me, I can't even figure it out for myself. I can't separate the this from the that person from that strategy, that choice from that decision. All of these things start to come together in this big, beautiful whole where I go, I don't know, and maybe it doesn't matter because I am where I am and I'm calling it good. But what I have found out is that there's good news. That was the bad news. Because we all want prescriptions, don't we? We all want manuals. But the good news is this. I truly believe that whether we're evolving with our own being and expanding in our own consciousness and our own liberation, or whether we're doing it collectively as a global society and culture, there are a few things that are necessary for our awakening. The first is, and they're a lot easier and less expensive than following someone else's path. They are authenticity. Authenticity. An absolute, authentic desire to awaken. Not to get or to give something from it, but a true, authentic desire to awaken. Willingness. This often can look like falling down on your knees. It can often look like saying to the universe, I will do anything to wake up from this suffering. I will do anything to receive the good that I know is seeking me. I am not holding on to anything anymore. I am lifting it up and I am letting it go, and I don't care how scared I get. I don't care how small I feel. I am willing. We no longer say, I won't go to yoga because in my church, that's the devil's work. We no longer say, I have to stay on this path or with this practice, or I won't change my party affiliation, or I won't look into holistic health care because I'm a medical person, or I won't leave X, Y, or Z, you fill in the blank. I won't give up my dream or my vision, my hope or my attachment because I think I know what I know and I know what I want. But a true, deep willingness. The next is an honest inventory. Really being real with ourselves. An honest inventory. I think that this is the hardest thing. I think the hardest thing is listening to ourselves and admitting we know things. Really admitting that we know things. And we torture ourselves and other people, building up the courage to listen to what we already know. To listen to the guidance coming into and through and as us. The next is radical love and compassion. How can I show up for myself in more expanded ways? How can I be so radically loving and compassionate with myself? And in turn, with other people. If one has suicidal tendencies, how can they begin to shift that around and notice that when they are feeling the worst, they are the ones abandoning themselves? And starting to look at that and say, I won't leave you when you need me the most. I'm not going to keep leaving you when you need me the most. I won't keep abandoning myself. I will accept where I am, I will love myself, and I will begin the practice of applying that same love and that same courageous compassion to others. This includes a commitment to forgiveness. That in a moment of injury, I will stand there in that moment and I will claim the good. Not because something feels good, not because I can even in a moment say that was good, but I will claim it and I will declare that I am supported by this universe. And even this has a gift that will bless me. The next is trusting the moment. Resisting segmenting life. Resisting segmenting time and relationships. If this, then that. But that part was good, but not that part, but ba, 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 ba. But if that had happened, well, that didn't happen. Can we have that conversation with ourselves and trust the moment and resist segmenting everything into fairy tale thinking of going, but if, but then, well, it didn't, did it? That's not how it went. I showed up in that way at that time in that space, and this is my life. This is my life living itself, and I see it. And I will not segment it anymore because I am wholeness. I am wholeness. So it takes a process of reaching in, reaching up, and reaching out, does it not? Reaching in to the depth of our soul power, the depth of our meditation and our prayer practice, reaching up to higher consciousness and reaching out, which is not keeping ourselves in a silo, but asking for advice, calling people, talking, sharing our stories. One of the most helpful things any friend has ever said to me in a time of suffering was this. My friend James Williams said, he said, you can act your way into better, you can act your way. I had to write it down, and I had to repeat it for months at one point in my life. He said, you can act your way into better thinking, but you can't think your way into better acting. You can act your way into better thinking, but you can't think your way into better acting. Sometimes in unity, we try so hard to change a thought before we look at just shifting right in the moment with what's in front of us. It takes courage to act our way into a new reality, to act our way into expansion. We can all ask ourselves the question, even if we don't feel like the healthy person, even if we don't feel like the evolutionary, we can say, what would that action look like? What would someone that's whole do right now? What would someone that's peaceful do right now? We always go to Reverend Sig Paulson, In Your Power to Be. He says this, and it's kind of funny, his wording, but I'm going to give it to you just like he did. The next great adventure. He says, since this is the age of individual unfoldment, the opportunity and privilege of participating in the next great adventure of human progress are open to us, right where we are, regardless of our present status. We may be black, yellow, or white, young or old, rich or poor, educated or uneducated from the human viewpoint. We may be in, quote, the corn patch with the pigs, or smug in a rug of dogmatic religion. We may be a religionist or a scientist or a combination of both, but the finger of time is upon us, and we will either be on the answer or the problem side of the current crisis in human evolution. The life current is at the flood stage, and we will either move in the growing light to the rock of self-acceptance and realization, or be the quaking on the sand of lesser beliefs. He said that Jesus indicated that living in the revelation he brought is a step-by-step process, like a seed planted on the ground, growing to maturity. So we will have to muster what authority we have gained thus far through ideas and courses of action we have shared, plus other experiences, and begin right where we are. The idea in the following words will be a good test of your present expression of the power to be an authority in action. I am the authority that governs the images I hold of myself, others, and my world. Together, I am the authority that governs the images I hold of myself, others, and my world. Your power to be. Namaste.